It started not with sirens, not with raised voices, not with spectacle, but with silence. On a private airstrip, the kind designed for people who do not stand in lines and do not answer questions, a luxury jet waited, ready to depart. The engines were warm, the crew prepared. Everything about the scene suggested routine, normalcy, control. And yet something distinctly unusual was unfolding because on board that jet was Donald Trump, former president, enduring political force, and the central figure in a widening network of legal scrutiny. And according to multiple reports, he was not traveling alone. A significant amount of cash was traveling with him. Under most circumstances, cash is not news. But within the context of an active fraud investigation, one focused on asset valuations, financial disclosures, and years of representations to banks and regulators, cash is never simply cash. It is a question. Federal authorities did not flood the runway. There were no handcuffs, no dramatic standoff, no viral footage. Instead, the aircraft was quietly stopped temporarily, procedurally, precisely. And that restraint is exactly what makes this moment matter. Because in the world of financial investigations, the loudest signal is often the quietest intervention. Investigators are trained to observe patterns, not personalities. They are trained to prioritize timing, movement, documentation. When large amounts of physical currency appear during sensitive legal proceedings, alarms do not sound. They hum. Where is the money headed? Why now? Who approved the transfer? Is it documented? Is it tied to assets under dispute? These are not accusations. They are the baseline questions of oversight. Trump's legal team maintains that all financial movements are lawful, fully accounted for, and compliant. And that may very well be true. But legality is not the only concern during active litigation. Timing matters, context matters, and intent must be demonstrated, not assumed. Cash complicates everything. Unlike wire transfers or bank records, physical currency does not create an automatic trail. Its mobility is both its strength and its vulnerability. That is why during investigations involving potential asset preservation, authorities pay close attention to when and how cash moves. This pause, according to legal analysts, fits squarely within what is known as asset preservation oversight. The objective is not punishment, it is prevention. Ensuring that funds potentially subject to court authority are not repositioned in ways that could later raise questions or interfere with remedies. And consider where this occurred. A private jet represents freedom from friction. It is autonomy forged in aluminum and jet fuel. It is insulation from scrutiny. And that is precisely why a pause on that runway matters, because authority entered a space built to exclude it. There was no confrontation, but there was a message. Oversight applies everywhere. Context is essential. This incident did not happen in a vacuum. It unfolded amid an ongoing fraud case examining whether financial statements overstated asset values across multiple properties and over many years. Prosecutors are comparing representations made to banks with those made to tax authorities, asking whether reality aligns with either. Within that framework, the movement of large sums of cash is not incidental. It is data. Observers on the tarmac noted how controlled the moment was. Staff followed protocol. Security remained calm. The jet's exterior gleamed in the sunlight, reflecting not only wealth, but tension, the quiet tension of a system carefully doing its job. Predictably, reactions divided along familiar lines. Supporters framed the halt as political overreach. Critics viewed it as accountability finally reaching altitude. But neither interpretation alters the mechanics at work. Federal oversight does not move on outrage or allegiance. It moves on paperwork. Documentation must match action. Action must align with disclosure. Disclosure must withstand scrutiny. And while this pause does not suggest guilt, it does suggest relevance. Legal experts note that in financial cases, small inconsistencies can grow large over time. An undocumented transfer, a poorly timed movement, a cash reserve that does not align with prior filings. These details do not shout, but they echo. There is also a human dimension here. Donald Trump has built his public identity on projection, confidence, dominance, control. To be stopped even briefly within a domain designed for absolute autonomy is not insignificant. It is a reminder that legal scrutiny does not negotiate. From the enforcement side, this was an ordinary task carried out with extraordinary caution. Officers followed protocols designed to respect rights while preserving investigative integrity. No escalation. no performance, just procedure. Eventually, the runway returned to its rhythm, engines hummed, the jet took off. But the moment did not vanish, because in high-stakes financial investigations, pauses matter. This incident will likely surface in filings, in depositions, in courtroom narratives. Prosecutors will ask about source, purpose, and timing. Defense attorneys will prepare explanations grounded in compliance and intent. And beyond the courtroom, the story takes on a second life. Media coverage magnifies symbolism. Social media compresses nuance. A halted jet becomes a political Rorschach test. Accountability to some, persecution to others. But the law is indifferent to optics. It concerns itself with records, not reactions, with evidence, not emotion. What this moment ultimately illustrates is not spectacle, but process. A system designed to operate quietly, even when the subject is anything but quiet. Cash in this context carries weight far beyond its face value. It represents flexibility, power, and risk all at once. And when that cash moves during active litigation, it invites scrutiny, not because of who is involved, but because of what is at stake. As the investigation continues, its attention will shift from the runway to the courtroom, from symbolism to substance, from pause to precedent. And while the jet may have lifted off, the questions raised by that brief halt remain firmly grounded. Because in the end, this story is not about a plane. It is about oversight, it is about timing, and it is about the quiet, methodical way accountability operates. Often unseen, often without drama, but always with intention. And in legal matters of this scale, it is precisely these understated moments that shape what comes next.